Hey, welcome back. We're doing Greenfoot Chapter 3b, finishing up the improvements that we started last time to our little crab scenario. So at the end of last time we left off where we had made our crabs eat worms, and then we added lobsters, which behave a lot like crabs, walking around randomly and eating crabs. So that if we hit run, they move around something like this. Oh, the crabs didn't last very long on that one, did they? So I had made the lobsters move a little faster, and maybe they're a little too aggressive right now. So we'll change that later. But the main thing right now is that it's not much of a game. It's more of a simulation. So if we want to make it playable, we got to make sure that the person can interact using the keyboard with this scenario. So we're going to do what we often do when we don't know how to do the things we want to do, and that's go to the documentation. So let's go back to the Greenfoot class documentation and check out, see if Greenfoot has anything for us. So we see that Greenfoot has a couple of things about keys. There's a get key, and there's also a is key down, which is right here. Look, is key down turns out to be the one we want to use this time. It will check whether a given key is currently pressed down or not, and it gives us a boolean, true or false value. Remember that it's static, so that means it's a class. It's a class method, so we'll have to write Greenfoot dot is key down when we write it, and the parameter it takes is a java.lang.string. So this is a standard data type. Strings are text that we put between double quotes. So here, let's try and use it. Is key down. It'll check whether a given key is currently pressed down. That sounds good. Maybe we can make it so that our crab will turn when we press the key. So since we're going to do that, we don't want it to turn at edge anymore because we want to have full control, and we don't want it to be randomly turning, that's for sure. So what we can do is we can either delete these or we can comment them. This is a popular programming technique, is to just put a couple of slashes to make it a line comment so that the particular line of code stops operating. And now this way, if we want to bring it back later, we can easily uncomment it, but for now it won't be used. And we'll instead write our code right here of how to make the crab react to our key presses. So we would like it if when our key is pressed, which will go somewhere in here, that our crab will turn. So let's put turn. Let's do left. So left means it'll be turning counterclockwise. That's a negative number. So let's try -4, maybe. That sounds like a good number. And in here, in the space between the parentheses, we'll put our Boolean condition, our yes or no thing, which we said Greenfoot dot is key down will provide that. And as a parameter to is key down, we need to give it a string, so something between two double quotes right here. So let's give it the name of our left key. So left key will correspond to the left press. We could do anything on our keyboard. We could do space. We could do a letter A, but we'll do left. And so this will hopefully work and make it so that when I press the left key, our crab will turn. So let's compile that and try that. So we put in the crab and go. And now when I press left, it indeed turns the crab left. Of course, I'd like to be able to turn right as well. So that's where you come in. I encourage you to pause right now and add functionality so that it will turn right when you press the right key. Okay, so now hopefully you've added it so that when you press the right, it'll turn right. So here's left, here's right. What happens if I do both? If I hold down left and right, both conditions happen. So it turns -4 and then it turns 4. So in the end, it cancels itself out and it just moves straight if I press both of them together. So this is great. This operation makes a lot of sense and works as we anticipated. However, we should probably do what we started doing at the end of last chapter, which is write a method for this particular functionality. We wrote methods that had specific names for the different things that we were doing before, like turning an edge or turning randomly or looking for the worm last time, because it helped us read the code better. And it was in the end, it actually makes it easier to change things as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this code and we're going to cut it out, and we'll write a new method. So public. It doesn't need to return anything. We don't need to know anything about from it. We just need it to do something. So we'll say, let's call it check key press. That seems like a good name for it. It doesn't need any parameters. And we'll put that code right in there. So now if we call check key press, it'll turn, and we want to call that right here where we took it out, check key press. And so now our code looks nice and clean again. Okay, so you can check that this works, and indeed it does do the job. So run. So good. One small thing that I want to add in here. We're starting to get a lot of methods that we're using, especially from the Greenfoot class, and sometimes it can be hard to remember exactly what the methods are called. Although often we remember, well, there was something, but is it is key down? Is it is key press? What is it? So one neat little trick that's available here in the Greenfoot class editor and in many Java editors is after you type the name of the class and dot, if you press Ctrl-Space, it will give you a list of all the methods that class has available. And so if you couldn't remember if it was key down or key press, there you go. It's a list right there. If you click on it, it'll fill it in for you and even put in a little blurb for you to help you remember that you need to give it a parameter of key name, which is a string. And so this is a very helpful little thing to do. I'm going to take that out because that doesn't need to be there, but we'll keep using that a little more as we go, so we don't have to continually go back to the Java docs or the API every time we forget what the name of the method is. Okay, so now that we've got this game going and we can put our crab in and add some lobsters and try and avoid the lobsters, it would be a good idea for you to now try and tune the game to make it fun. Right now, I think that the lobsters are a little bit fast, and I don't stand much of a chance, so I might slow the lobsters down a little bit, or reduce the number of lobsters I put in. Yeah, now's a good time to pause and just tinker with the code a little bit, maybe make things move faster, slower, turn more or less randomly, so that the game feels right. Okay, so now that you've updated the code, I've made it so that my lobster's a little less aggressive, and my crab can now outrun them, but still pretty tough. It would be nice to make this work so that when you lose, the game actually stops. As it is right now, the lobsters keep on going after they eat me. So this familiar exercise is that if we want to do something, hopefully the Greenfoot API has something that helps us do it. So let's go see if there's something in the Greenfoot API that might be helpful. Or even better, we can try and just check using our code completion. So when would we like to end the game? Well, it would be nice to end the game when the lobster eats us. So let's open the editor for the lobster. And when the lobster eats the crab, when it removes the crab in the look for crab method, I would like it to end the game. So maybe Greenfoot has a method that would allow us to end the game. Here's something called stop. That looks promising. I probably should look that up since I don't really know what it does in the Java docs, but just let's try it and see what happens. I do happen to know that it's the one we're looking for, but I should probably be responsible in the future and look it up in the docs. So let's let's test it. Let's put the crab out and see what happens when he gets hit by a lobster. So now, here I am. Okay, and the game stops when the running stops and no longer calls act repeatedly once we get to this point where we have been eaten by a lobster. So, excellent. We're a little closer to having a polished product. The one last thing we want to do in this chapter is we would like to add some sounds. So sounds are a really neat thing that Greenfoot helps us do. Again, this time I'll be responsible and we're going to go to the class documentation. Let's go. You might notice that in one of the classes that we have in Greenfoot is called Greenfoot Sound. This is a very robust class and has lots of handy methods for us to do sound stuff with. We're going to come back to this in a later chapter. For now, in the regular Greenfoot class, there's a quick and dirty method that we can use to produce sound called play sound. And so, as we see, it's a class method, static, so we need to call Greenfoot.playSound. It doesn't return anything. And as a parameter, it requires a string, a sound file name in string format, a text for that. So then try and add a sound. I would like to add a sound when we eat a worm. That's satisfying. Let's try and make a slurp sound. So we happen to have two sound files included in the folder for the little crab scenario. One of them is a slurp.wave. So when we touch a worm and we remove it, we'll also call Greenfoot. What was it called again? Method completion to the rescue. Play sound. There we go. And we put the name of the sound file. So the sound file name, it's a string, so it goes in between two quotes, double quotes, and it was slurp.wave. If you don't know what sounds are available to you, you can look in the folder underneath the sounds folder within your scenario, and you'll see all the sounds that are available to you. I realize I forgot to turn on the computer sound, so you won't be able to hear it on this video, but it does in fact work. So you have to trust me on that one. So go ahead and give that a shot yourself. And then there's another sound that called au.wave. Yeah, we'd like to play this when we lose. So figure out where to put this sound to be played in your code. Pause and do that, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so I put the play sound. It turns out it's the ow sound, not aw, which makes more sense. And I put it in the lobster class in the method look for crab, right at the point where it eats the crab and right before it stops the game, although the order doesn't particularly matter in this case. So the last thing is I want to show you guys how to record your own sounds you can put into your Greenfoot scenarios. So if you go to Tools up here and choose Sound Recording, Show Sound Recorder, you can record your own sound files. So it's a WAV file that it'll be. Let's say record ourselves saying go. So go, and we can hit play and listen to it. Go. And yeah, we can also trim it, so we can select the part of it that's actually good. Go. And cut out everything else. So here, we're really nitpicky and just get that. Go. And trim to that. And now we have it. So we can save. And now we'll have the ability to play the word go. So it's not a great place for it to play it when we die, but we can test it. And go. Now we can play our own sounds. Okay, so have fun with that. Next time we're going to finish up our little crab scenario in chapter 4. We'll put the finishing touches on. See you then.